Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about processing video files inside of After Effects. You know, there's we could definitely play around with the slow-mo footage and even make it even more slow-mo if we need to. We can also make slow motion out of footage that wasn't shot for slow motion. And I'm going to show a couple of these techniques. It'll be a real short demo. We'll still get it here relatively early today. So first of all, we have our guinea pigs. I'm going to bring in our footage from the slow motion camera. I'll put it here. Bring in all you guys. I'll bring in you guys down there. Interesting. Okay. And then I already brought in, I'm going to bring in some other things that I made. It is multiple compositions. Okay. Cool. All right. So let's first of all talk about we watched the train entering the station last week, right? I showed you guys this thing, right? All right. And it's the train's moving so fast that and the people are moving so slow. It looks, you really get a snapshot of what their emotions are, right? The guy's laughing. It's a really great snapshot. What I'm going to do now is let's figure out what the original actual speed of it was. So we can go into our right-click our footage, and we can reinterpret our footage. Instead of being like 30 frames per second, I could say, oh, it's actually 800 frames per second if we were shooting on that slow motion camera, right? And now, so now this is a way of playing with footage, right? I've now changed the speed of this thing, right? Let me export that out. This idea of degrading and getting rid of information. That's probably the speed at which they came in. Cool. With really quick credits. So let me export this 5 seconds real quick. I'm going to do something with that in a second. So I'm going to use the media encoder so that I can continue to use After Effects. And then I'll show you how to slow back down once we've lost all those frames with actual After Effects tools and see side-by-side comparison of that kind of stuff. Just to kind of elucidate the one slide I had in the presentation about losing information. Cool, should pop up here in a second. And if you've been wanting to get MP4s out of After Effects, you can't do it. You have to do it over here. And you have the option for MP4s and also hardware encoding for H.265. This is the best compression, especially if you're getting into 4K video. This is the best compression method to use. And it's relatively new. I can also do a PNG sequence, which I might do. I'm going to do a PNG sequence. I'm going to put it into my folder for the class. It's on the faster drive. And the train. Open. Save. Alright, so I'll be doing this thing in the background. Okay, so what I want to do is show you how to make slow motion footage out of stuff that wasn't shot for slow motion. I was showing you that there is, I was telling you there's a thing called Twixtor, and this has been around for like 10 years, and the algorithm just continues to improve. There's a lot of different plugins these guys make based around that whole motion compensation that I was talking about. And they do like Real Smart Motion Blur and some other really great ones. Deflicker, which I probably need to get Deflicker for our footage. Right, they do a lot of stuff with time. The Deflicker's for when you do time lapses, and each one has a little bit of different exposure. It helps smooth that kind of stuff. It's really helpful stuff. Denoise, all these things we can use. We're going to look at Twixtor. And to install a plugin, this one has an installer, but just so you know, when you're doing other plugins, there's a folder in your program files under C. It'll be Adobe After Effects, whichever version you're using. We're using this one, and then you put things into plugins folder. right? Here's a slit scan plugin I was trying out. It's actually more complicated than just doing slit scan the traditional way. But here's some plugins that's where you would put it if you had to manually place it in. So that's done. That's great. I'm going to bring that in. The train. If I just select the first one and say import as footage, it'll bring it in the entire sequence. That's great. And it's this thing, right? Cool. So let's do the two things that are, we're going to do two different methods of slowing down, three different methods. We're going to do frame blending, which is built into After Effects. We're going to do frame blending with a pixel sort, and then we're going to do Twixtor, and then I'll do a quick slit scan before we walk out of here today. So this is the footage sped up back to speed. And I'm going to try the first method of frame blending, which is built into After Effects. I'm going to slow it back down the old-fashioned way, or with the we do the reinterpret footage, or I can make this composition longer. Let's go like 20 seconds for right now. I say OK. And we can enable time remapping. Right, we have time stretch and all that kind of stuff here. So I can bring it out, and I do this. This is naturally just stretching when the last keyframe is. Right, I think. But it's choppy, right? Because we lost that information. We lost all those frames in between. So this is going to come up with, this is going to do different algorithms for creating information in between. Okay? And the first way is just clicking a little button called frame blending. And then coming down here to switches and modes, instead of doing a mode for composition or for compositing, we're going to go to a little switch for frame blending. And this is basically subdividing. This is the most simple way of blending and getting information. This is what what Premiere and Final Cut do when they just want to come up with information in between. When you say slow motion, this is what it does automatically. Not very interesting, right? But you get the idea, is that it's taking one frame and slowly fading it out while it's slowly fading the next one, and it's just doing that little dance where everything is always at 100% when it's additive together, right? This could be its own effect that has its own meaning. That could be a final result if that's what you want. If you come over to your effects, layers, and frame blending, there's different. That's instead of doing a frame mix that we're talking about, that push and pull of percentage of opacity, we can actually do pixel motion. And so what this is going to do is going to look which way the pixels are moving and try to intelligently decide where it should go. It's trying to use a little algorithm. This one, to show you better, it would be better if we used locked off footage. And this one's going to have problems figuring out where the first frame is on the side that it's panning to. And then the end will also have problems. Where does it go when it doesn't have a life? But we're going to see some accidents that might be interesting. It's trying to figure out where it doesn't have any information. Right? So this is kind of an interesting effect. Right? It's already doing things that are kind of funny with time. And as I messed this up more and more and more, it would be more perceived. Let's see. Let's make it a full minute. Stretch it out. And here we are making slow motion footage out of slow motion footage that was no longer slow motion footage. If you get what I mean.
Is that like pixel motion effect, like interpolation using like some machine learning algorithm? Because it kind of has that like.
Yeah. I definitely know that Twixtor is, and I think this is trying to do that, but it's really going back to those motion vectors and edge detection and trying to recognize objects, which gets into the machine learning thing. It's object recognition, right? So some of these things look okay, like the guy that's smiling in the background looked completely fine, but some of the foreground items are really kind of messed up. So, if we're not doing panning, this could actually give us some interesting effects. This could actually approximate something we want, right? She looks kind of fine, right? So this is just to know that there's two different kinds of frame blending built in. Great. Cool. I I used to always do documentation and with time lapse and always use pixel sort. Like my whole ITP blog is just me using this effect over and over again. With like at the CNC router for like 6 hours at a time, set to like some really cool ambient drone music. You know, what's up? So if anyone knows me, I love watching Buster Keaton movies, and they're really fun to play around with. Buster Keaton was a silent movie star. It did some really dangerous stunts, like such. Right?
I walk for miles, place to place, but no one smiles to help me chase those big cities.
So he did his own stunts. He was the OG Jackie Chan. Where's the one that I have? Oh, there it is. This one is super iconic. Right. He reaches out, and he really did that. So I want to use that shot, and we're going to make that into slow motion using Twixtor, okay? I'm just going to move this to the center and kind of zoom in. There we go. There's the beginning frame. Cool. So I could apply Twixtor, but I haven't bought it yet, and so I'm just going to do a little fudging around it real quick. So let me make this composition a little bit bigger. I'm going to do a little math inside of here with the aspect ratio locked off. I'm going to make it like 4 times bigger. And I'm going to move old Buster over to the side. Yeah. And then I'm going to bring Buster Keaton down into another composition. And I'll put Twixtor on. I'll make this one go back to the way it was. Let's put Twixtor back on. Okay, Twixtor. Oh, didn't install this computer? We get to do it together? That's what happens when I do demos on my other computer first. So I should go download real quick. For After Effects. It does it for all the other programs. Yes, yes, yes. Windows, Mac. Which one do I want? Windows. Cool. I might have to restart. Let me go ahead and save. Save. And this one could be... we'll do this one as Buster. Dual. Now let's install it. Yes. Enhance my artistry. Exactly. Cool, there's a manual. There's a bunch of versions of things, but we're just going to open up our project again. Called Buster. Sure. Great. Did I put it at 14? Oh my goodness. We're going to close it right back up. Interesting. I'm surprised I can like downgrade. That's just wasted time. After Effects. Oops, I didn't do anything there. I just wanted to open up Bing. I never use it enough. No, you're the right After Effects. All right, should be one of my recent projects. Anyway, I should have this sub composition inside the bigger composition. I'll make this composition back smaller. Right, the original size, and kind of fine. Yeah.
Does the frame affect the outcome? The rendering?
Repeat the question.
Does the frame rate affect the?
Yes, this is all about frame rate and information and trying to figure out interpolation between.
So if you increase the frame rate and then the calculation.
Increasing the frame rate would actually not be as much of a problem. It's decreasing the frame rate, and then having it interpolate frames that don't exist. Yeah. I'm just going to put Twixtor on here. And for anyone who caught that, I'm just getting around that. All right, so Twixtor is going to create slow motion footage for us, starting at this frame right here, okay? And it's super intelligent. This is what it does. I'm going to show my Twixtor output, use my GPU if it's supported for this process, and then there's all sorts of stuff for I could play around with, like motion sensitivity and smart blend. I'm just going to do what the speed is, and I want to make this 10% slower, right? A tenth of the speed, and then it's done the thing. All right, so we watch it now. Maybe 10 was too much. Let's try it. Let's go back over here. I love it. I think that's art. It's super cool. Of course, we were talking about and what's even more important is when it does a cut. I go back a frame. Like that. So we're going to get more in this next week. It has a lot more intelligence than that pixel sorting blending method that we just looked at. So this is the kind of tools you're playing with if you don't have the camera, right? Is playing with different kinds of algorithms for frame blending. Cool. Anyway, if you guys haven't seen Buster Keaton, definitely watch a lot of the stuff. It's crazy. When you play around with it, you see that you can do some things better than others. If you're trying to do Twixtor in the middle of your process, you're going to do a lot of effects afterwards. I would definitely render this out to a movie. But you can play around. There's an instruction manual. You can play around with like the smart blend and motion blur compensation. Who knows? But the more you do that kind of stuff, look how they did like edge detection. See that? It like made it really poppy. That's really interesting. Yeah, what am I even making? Anyway, so that's some kind of stuff to just play around with timing, and I'll, of course, give you guys the videos. The one thing I wanted to show you was that slit scanning effect, which is super easy to use. So let's just make a new composition out of Buster. A fresh one. All right. And let's do a slit scan when... Let's zoom in a little bit more. There you go. I think that car going by would be perfect. Little quick shortcut is Shift Control D, trims it, duplicate it, trims and duplicates, and I can get rid of the other one, and that's my starting point.
There's no other way of editing.
There's no what?
Like other way of editing, like cutting in After Effects.
There's trim. I mean, it's not like Premiere where you have like a trim button, a razor blade, but I just did that. Hmm? I don't even know where this is, but this is how I make, like, whenever you want to make loopable VJ loops and they don't loop, you go to the middle of one, you trim it like that, and then you put them on either side of each other and make them blend into each other. I'll show you that, guys, in a little bit. And that's, I one time just like sat around making somebody's content all loopable for like a show he had to do. He's like, okay, I'll get paid for that. Cool. Well, actually, let's do, there's so many good ones. Let's do the house. That's more iconic. I will do this one, it's fine. So slit scanning is just time displacement. Alright, so time displacement. Right here. And it's going to look at a grayscale information, okay? I'm going to create just a solid.
This works per pixel?
Mm-hmm.
This works per pixel?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's great fun. So we're going to do a gradient real quick. I'll make it black as the base, and a little gradient tool. Gradient ramp, throw it on here, and I have a gradient. So what time displacement is going to look for is I'll put this solid underneath. Time displacement is going to look for a layer, a source layer. So if I choose the source layer of black solid, then it is using the grayscale information at the resolution is 60 frames. Okay, and so what it is that at gray it's going to be on time, and if it's all the way black, it'll be 60 seconds behind, and if it's white, it'll be 60 seconds ahead. Right. So what we're going to see is that the bottom of the car is going to come in first, and the top's going to come in later. Let's see. It should work that way. Oh, I need to pre-compose this so it's not an effect. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. So basically, this has an effect on it. I need it to be actual video footage. I can export this out and bring it back in as a movie, or if I just turn it to its own composition, it treats it like a movie. Right? Because it doesn't want to look at the effect. It wants to look at a solid. It looks at frames. And so I need to this is like a way of rendering out the effect without rendering out the effect. Right? I can easily also, instead of using this black solid, I can make a new composition and put that in there and drag it in. And it's like nested layers of stuff. I just need to make sure that I use the right setting, which is I want to move all the attributes to the new composition. Cool. And now we're slit scanning Buster Keaton. And of course you see that if I had more frames, if I was shooting at 60 frames per second, then I would have more information. Those bands wouldn't be there. But there's our car. Super cool, right? 2 buttons. And there I just made that little video that I said I like of that still image, right? So we want to, if we're going to shoot content for slit scanning, let's shoot at 60 frames or try to download test footage that's at 60 frames per second. And now we see that this could be any information that's grayscale. We can do the gradient the other direction, or we can go back to our information from Infinitely Fun. We can go back to our information or our stuff from the first class. Where let me get rid of this real quick, or I can just hide it. And I want to make do a fractal noise layer. So let me bring in another solid. And do fractal noise. Oh, not fractal noise. Yeah, fractal noise, not fractal. That's fun though. I have no idea what that would do. Fractal noise. And so now this can be our grayscale information. And we can animate it over time. Just for some more variation. As you see, I'm fine with randomness. So let's just make it like 5 times. Cool. So it's going to use this for our time displacement. Right, and that might be a little bit too much. It's going to get really crazy. So I'm going to reduce the amount of complexity down to like 1. And then make this a turbulence sharp. There we go. That's going to be pretty cool. And make it blocky. There we go. Let's bring it underneath Buster. And then have Buster look at... Oh, and then I have to pre-compose. There we go. And then we can have Buster look at this one. There we go. That's some interesting stuff around him. Let's move forward to the car. It's coming in pieces. Right, and you can imagine this being like maybe even not a consistent effect, something where it's at 0 and ramps up just for transition and comes back down. This can have a lot more variance to it, but this is a pretty fun stuff to do.
Can you just make it for part of the so it's like the entire screen, like the entire...
Yeah, you can like mask out this layer or something like that, and you can animate that mask, right?
Any white pixels in this layer will be like on the quote unquote current frame, right?
I think it's gray is the current frame. It goes behind and ahead,
Oh, okay.
right? And then you can mess around with brightness and contrast, right? If I bring this down, if I take the contrast down to all gray, then I've eliminated the effect, right? And then I can increase the contrast, and you could be like a audio reactive layer or something like that, and you're using this stuff dynamically. So anyway, it's so easy to do the slit scanning. I wanted to go into that with time because it's an effect that you can really. There's some like it's good videos online where people are really thinking about this and really coming at it with a very interesting methodology, and you can do a lot with it. And you can. No, okay, stretch the okay, yeah. So this is all I wanted to get to today was this, and you can think about nesting this kind of stuff, right? You can slit scan and then time warp a slit scan and all that kind of stuff. So just have fun with playing with time, and think about talking about time in an artistic way to describe your works. And I'll upload the slow motion footage to our Dropbox like I did last week, and give you a link, and you can use anyone's footage and combine it any way you want to. It's possible, right? And then I will see you next week when we do a little bit more into destruction of video and making content before we start getting into doing projection and all that kind of fun workshop and really get into the more installation and medium component of this project or this class. Cool? Any questions for right now? Just a bunch of cool stuff. It's fun. All right. Again, there's so much more. This is very dense software. We're only going to be doing like 2 more weeks in After Effects, so it's like if you really want to get into it, it's kind of up to you to jump into After Effects more. Definitely ping me in Slack if you have any questions. I haven't used everything. In fact, I hadn't really used After Effects in like 3 years, so I'm kind of learning it myself again. So I just thought it was important to learn how to make content before we do real-time stuff, because so many classes they get into projection are just generative and they don't have like actual narrative content that I think is interesting, and we want to include that in this class. Cool.